I don't know if you can, because some people can't wear a mask because of a medical condition. So I don't know if you can force somebody, and you can't ask what that medical condition is because of HIPAA. So you might want to check with MMA on that before you say you're going to throw somebody out and call authorities. Just a thought.
Thank you. Kathleen?
My concern is that people don't properly use masks. And so I'd like to make sure that we have something that explains how they ought to be wearing a mask and how they ought to be using a mask. I see people with, wearing them low over their nose or under their nose and not under their chin. So I think that it's important for them to know that. And I just happen to have a mask here, so I'm going to give you 2 seconds, okay? The mask needs to cover the bridge of your nose and under your chin. And it needs to go side to side so that you don't have gaps on your cheeks, okay? But it needs to completely cover this part of your face in order to be effective.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you.
Story.
Anyone else have comments? Select board? Ken, was it Ken? Ken, you waving at me?
So with the one-way going through the town office, is the other side handicap accessible?
I'm
On
sorry.
the way out?
Can you understand him?
Yeah. So what he asked, and I'm not actually sure about this, and I'm going to unmute Chris in case Chris wants to weigh in here.
What's the question first?
Kenny asked, is the side entrance, side exit, is it handicap accessible?
You mean for getting out?
Yes, for getting out.
There's a step down, I think, isn't there?
No.
No, it's level.
So it's a ramp out.
I think so. I think
Yes.
so.
That
I
was
think
desi-
I don't think there's not. Is there a ramp off the porch? I think the porch is elevated. Need to check that, Anthony.
I'll check it. I don't know the answer to that right now. I mean,
My recollection
is just a slanted, it's just a sloped, walkway off of the back porch.
I believe that was set up for handicap
I think so too.
exit. I know it was.
Go ahead,
Yes,
Cheryl.
we had this discussion like a couple years ago.
Yes, we did.
It's level.
Handicap
It's
accessible,
level. From the cement, it's level to the pavement.
Okay,
Right.
good.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else have comments? All right. Should we put this?
If I can, just for a second, my thoughts on this, and I think it's a great deal you're doing. I just think we need to concentrate on the town office. We don't need to open up any other buildings, I don't think at this time. That's just my opinion.
Well, that's all we're thinking of. Is that not correct?
No, we're gonna open up the library. They're gonna be having somebody,
No.
yes.
You're doing it by Zoom, aren't you?
So the library, again, we would not allow the public into the library. So if I were wanting a book, I would call the library and say, I'd like to read War and Peace. And they would look for it and see that they had it and said, okay, you can come by and pick that up on Thursday. And so I would arrange a time to go by and pick it up off the porch at the library. And then when I was done reading it, I would return it to the outside bin. And so if people wanted computer access, they can continue to access the Wi-Fi from the parking lot. But it's a way that we could deliver library services without actually having people in the library.
Does that sound, Rick? Hang on, Lily.
Well,
No.
again, I mean, I think Anthony said about bringing the books into the library after they've been outside. They're contaminated, they bring them in, correct?
Yeah, that was our thought, but we could just as easily put those in the garage and store them in the garage until 3 or 4 days have passed.
Getting that much call for it?
Sorry, say that again, Rick.
Getting that much call for the library to be doing that?
Well, I wouldn't say we've gotten a lot, but I think it's a way that we can start to offer some level of service to people. I have had a few people who have called me and asked me when the library is going to reopen.
I think our main concern is still the town office. That's what we need to do to serve the people. I would put my efforts into the town office and maybe hold up on everything else and see how this goes.
Kathy, do you have something to say? That,
No, I
no,
think
not other cat. Who's that under Lenny? I can't even see the picture.
That's Barbara.
Oh, Barbara. Picture's so small I couldn't recognize. Okay. Did you have your hand up?
I
Oh,
did.
yeah, I see you now. Go ahead.
I think it's I think the library is an important service to Belgrade residents, and I think that the only thing people have been able to access for the last couple of months are the internet offerings, iCloud, books, and available through the cloud if people like to read books on Kindle or on their computer or whatever. A lot of people don't like to do that. And I think that Megan has set up a system with Anthony that, is quite safe. It was just on the news this afternoon that the Gray Library has reopened, and they actually are allowing 10 people at a time into the library. So we're being way more conservative than they are, but I think it's an important service. And just before the library and all the town facilities had to close, we were ready to open up a book delivery program through Neighbors Driving Neighbors. And we hadn't even had a chance to announce that before the library had to close. So, I think that there are a lot of people who would appreciate being able to access materials from the library, and we would be happy to provide that service.
When did they want to start that program?
So I'm going to unmute Megan and let Megan speak to that because she spoke with them just today.
I didn't see you there. Hi, Megan.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
A little louder.
All right, let's see. Okay. Is that better?
yes.
Oh, that's wonderful.
All right, perfect. So we're hoping to kick off the delivery program as soon as we can, if we're allowed to reopen. And I've spoken with Mary Beth over at Neighbor Driving Neighbors. They have been continuing to do grocery deliveries and things of that nature throughout this whole pandemic. So they're very well equipped with, the new safety measures and, keeping everybody healthy during all of this. And they're confident that they can do a book delivery as well.
So what you're really talking about is curbside delivery?
Yes.
As opposed to really being open?
Correct.
When the books come back, you plan to put them in someplace stationary for a few days?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so the bug virus, whatever on it, would probably die off?
Right. I've written a procedure that I'm going to send to all of the other staff members to, wear gloves or sanitize before and after they pick up and drop off the books in the building, so that staff members can stay protected while we do that once a day.
Tell me again when you plan to start this program?
As soon as we can reopen.
Well, when you reopen or we don't even know at this point when you can open these buildings.
Well,
Well,
right.
I think what she means to say is when we can start offering services. So if the select board approves the proposal that we've laid out here tonight, the library would be open on Tuesday. And if Neighbors Driving Neighbors had books that they could deliver at that time, that's when that would begin.
Would there be any problem putting this off until the first of June?
I mean, we could put it off until the 1st of June, but I see no reason to, considering that, we have, developed a safety protocol, and Neighbors Driving Neighbors has also developed their own safety protocol for deliveries they're already doing. So I'm not entirely sure what benefit it might have postponing it another month.
Well, Governor didn't address libraries, unfortunately, at least not in the first 2 months. Only that to give it a little more time so we know a little bit more about what's going on.
Can we wait until the next select board meeting to make a final decision?
A motion to table it. How about the town office?
Well, no, the town office, I agree with Rick in that I think that services to the town office and how that goes is something that I'd like to make sure that we're really, we're okay with that and that everything's going okay with that. And then turn our attention to providing services through another town entity like the library. It's only 2 weeks we're talking about here.
I know it. Rick, how does that sit with you?
That's kind of what I was trying to get across. I'd like to open it slow, one thing at a time, and see how it goes.
Okay.
I mean, because I don't want to see all of a sudden this is a big crash and we have to shut everything right back down.
Yeah,
Do it sensibly and
like to be cautious about it enough.
absolutely. It's nothing against anybody or a library or anything. It's just, I think, good common sense.
All right. What I would like to have is, I'd like to have this done as a vote and we'll make two motions. One to open the town office as described by the town manager. And the other will be to table opening the library until at least our next meeting. Does that sound agreeable?
Yes,
Yes.
Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make that motion.
There are two motions. Which one are you making? What about the town
I'll make
office?
them both. How's that? We'll make it one.
All right, we'll combine them.
Yes,
It'll be part of the motion will be to open the town office as described, and the other one is to delay the opening of the library until at least the next select board meeting.
yes.
Second on that?
Yes.
Made and seconded. Any other discussion?
So, one thing in regards to the town office, what do you folks feel about opening up on Saturdays for the time being, so that we can sort of spread out the number of people being served over the course of a week, as opposed to cramming them all in over those 5 days?
Mike,
That'd be a smart thing to do
I think that's okay.
till the 19th at least. Let's see how it's going.
okay. I have to go ahead and do what you think, however you think it'll work out, Anthony. You hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, the motion's been made. Did anybody second it? Kathy, you seconded it, didn't you?
I seconded it.
All right. Rick, how do you vote?
Yes,
Ernie, how do you vote? Ernie?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Yes.
I got two yeses there.
Yes, yes.
Chair votes yes also. Okay, it's 4-0, one absent. Good, next item. Consideration on matters involving towns, election, and warrant articles. Town manager?
Okay, so you've seen the memo that I sent, and it's got several headings. So what I'd like to do is just go through those headings one at a time, so that there's some order to this discussion. So, and beginning with the election date. So when we last met, we heard the RSU 18 superintendent talk about the school district's plan to have the vote on its budget, the public vote on its budget on July 14th, which would coincide with the state primary election. And so we thought at that time, the idea was raised about having the town election on the same day. This would reduce cost by having one fewer election. And we may even have a higher turnout, because it would be held in conjunction with some other issues that people might be interested in voting on. So our recommendation is that we conduct the town's election on July the 14th. And I don't know if you guys want to handle these things individually, or if you want me to go through the whole thing.
I'd rather take them one by one.
All right, the election is first. We have the election on July 14th. Comments?
is that the written ballot ones?
What?
Is that the written ballot ones? Secret ballot ones?
One of the things that we got to discuss is whether or not to have the entire election on written ballot.
Need a little more information on this then. Is this the day we would have the town meeting? Is that what you're trying to?
So keep in mind, Rick, that the governor has limited public gatherings to fewer than 50 people throughout the course of the entire summer. So I don't think we're going to have an opportunity to have a traditional town meeting as Belgrade has known it. So I did check with MMA, and they said that we could put all of our warrant articles on a written ballot and have people decide those articles in that way. And because we cannot have a group of more than 50 people meeting, that's what we're proposing to do, is put all of the warrant articles on the ballot.
Okay,
Anthony,
this
why
is where the
Go ahead.
trouble comes in, if I can.
Go ahead,
We-
Rick.
We've already, a lot of secret ballots already turned in, correct?
Correct.
So how do we handle that? How do we get ballots to people that, are we going to just throw those away? And
No,
go
sir.
for the batch?
No, sir. So this is the advice from MMA Legal, because I asked him that very question, Rick. So we would require 2 ballots. The first ballot would be the secret ballot that we had previously planned, that some of us have already voted on and cast ballots. The second ballot would have all of the other warrant articles on it. And so, for instance, I was one of the people who voted absentee. So I would just get that second ballot because I've already voted on that first ballot of items, the things that were originally going to be on the secret ballot.
Okay.
If someone has not previously voted absentee, then they would have their choice of either of those ballots or both of those ballots. So the ballots that have been cast, we've kept those, and those would be counted as part of the results.
So what we'll be doing, Anthony, is whoever's cast an absentee ballot, when they go that day to cast the second ballot, they're going to know when they check in that they've already done their absentee ballot.
That's correct.
Okay.
And-
I want to be clear that there's no way for folks to have already voted on some absentee and then still vote for the whole thing if they say, no, I didn't vote absentee.
Yeah, well, and that's one of the, as you know, Melanie, that's one of the good things, I guess, in this instance of how we do voting is when you turn in that absentee ballot, you put it in an envelope with your name on it. So we have all those envelopes. We have a list of all the people who have voted, and we will, cross-reference that list against people who show up at the polls, either absentee to vote on the other ballot or on election day.
Clerk keeps pretty good records too, so. Listen, Anthony, we've kind of done this anyway. Why don't we go through everything to lay it out so that a lot of the questions that have come up have had to do with things later on in your memo.
Okay,
So
so
briefly go through it, and then we'll ask questions.
So what the question Rick asked sort of segues into having all of our warrant articles on a secret ballot. We can do that, but we still must meet all the legal requirements that are required of a ballot election. And that includes a 60-day deadline for ballot questions. That means you guys would have to approve the ballot no later than May the 14th. We would have to provide absentee ballots, and I talked with Cheryl about this today. So that would, we would do that at least 30 days in advance of the election. We would have to have a public referendum on referendum questions, and I've checked with MMA Legal on this as well. We could do that using Zoom, and because we're so far out, we might even want to have a series of those public hearings just to try to reach as many people as possible. And we would have to post the ballot as well. MMA, I mentioned the 60-day deadline. MMA is working with the governor's office about the possibility to reduce that time frame from 60 days to 35 days, but they are not confident that that's going to happen at all. So again, we would have to approve a ballot before or by May 14th. I mean, we could do it tonight if you guys were so inclined, or we could have a special meeting. There's also been the question raised of whether or not we could conduct the entire election through absentee and mail-in ballots only. Again, I checked with MMA Legal or the MMA. They are also working with the governor's office on this issue, but they are not optimistic that we're going to be allowed to conduct the entire election via absentee and mail-in ballots. So barring some unforeseen action by the governor's office, that means we will have to have polling places open on election day at the Center for All Seasons. And then lastly, we've got some decisions to make about how we want to address the budgetary warrant articles, but I think I'll stop right there for right now, and we can work out the logistics of the election itself.
Questions?
I can again. Dan Newman called me today. He couldn't make tonight's meeting because he's in.
He's
New-
here. Oh, Dan, no, excuse me.
Yeah, he's in New Hampshire tonight. He's quite concerned about this voting, how it's going to be done. He had a lot of questions about it, and I told him I'd ask the questions like I did. I'm not sure I'm ready to make a decision on this tonight. If we waited till the 19th, how much would that harm us, I guess?
Well, if the governor's office does not reduce that time frame of approving the ballot from 60 days to 35 days, and I misspoke a little earlier, they are optimistic that the governor's going to do that. But if she doesn't do that, then we've missed our window of opportunity to have a ballot election if we wait until the 19th.
When will you know that?
She could act at any time. So when I talked to the person who heads the MMA's lobbying efforts, and she said they're working closely with the governor's office on this. They're optimistic about it, but she didn't have a time frame as to when the governor might issue an executive order.
Does she know that our deadline is May 14th?
Yes, so they're aware that we're looking at July 14th as our election date. So that when you back that up 60 days, that means, yeah, our deadline's May 14th. So
May 14th is our deadline.
yeah,
I'm sure there's other towns in the same boat. Am I correct?
that's correct.
I would think so, yeah.
Anthony, if we miss that May 14th deadline, what does that mean? We'd have to schedule a meeting later on in July or even August?
When you say a meeting, do you mean an election?
The election, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
we have to move our
Yes,
election.
that's what that means. Which at that point, again, I mean, we're going to be incurring some additional expense because we're going to have an additional election in addition to the one on July 14th.
Rick, did you ask all the questions?
No,
that Dan-
again, I thought, Anthony and I talked about it today a little bit, and I still don't have a good answer. Yeah, I'd like to think that's going to work perfectly, but I'm not sure it is. I've got some, especially with mail-in votes. How do we know they're going to get through the post office? I mean, mail does get lost.
Well, but we do mail-in votes right now, Rick. I mean, anyone could pick up a ballot or request a ballot, and we mail it to them, and they mail it back to us, or they come to the town office and pick up a ballot, and they can mail it back to us, and a lot of people do.
I understand, but I bet you that's going to be an excuse if things don't go the way they think they should go.
Well,
And
so
go ahead, Mel. Mel, go ahead.
does it make sense for the folks who've already cast absentee ballots to mail them the second ballot? So if that's how they tend to vote, is absentee ballot, they may not be able to get to the polls on July 14th.
Right, but don't forget that they could also just come to the town office and vote absentee anytime in the 30 days leading up to the election. And so, I mean, frankly, I expect that our absentee and mail-in turnout is going to be higher than ever because people aren't going to want to go down to the Center for All Seasons on election day and stand in line with a few dozen of their neighbors and risk what all that entails at this point.
I think you're right.
Well,
Anthony,
the other part of me says, you don't really know Belgrade, and sometimes we go vote because it is kind of social on a regular basis. You get to see your neighbors voting. So,
Yeah,
So
well,
do
believe me,
Is your hand up or are you just resting it? No, turn it around.
yeah.
Turn the microphone on. Go ahead, Cheryl.
I really think that it's going to be hard to get the turnout at the polling place because right now I've got 2 Democratic workers and 5 Republicans that will work the election. I don't even have enough to run the election. So to say that people are going to turn out, it's scary. I don't know if they will or not.
Yeah, in fact, there was a story on Maine Public today, that very thing, that towns and cities all across the state are having zero luck at finding poll workers for this
Poll workers, yeah, I
for
saw
this
that.
election.
I saw that.
How many poll workers do you need, Cheryl?
We have to have an even amount. So if I've got 5 Republicans, I need 5 Democrats. But like I said, at this point, I've got 2 Democrats and 5 Republicans.
What about independents?
I can do that, but the situation is I've got to have a couple shifts, because we've now going to make this 3 elections in one. It's going to be the school budget, it's going to be the primary, and it's going to be the town meeting. So what happens is the state primary goes on a thumb drive, which programs the machine to count ballots. So only those ballots can go in the machine. So at the end of those ballots going in, we tally everything up, total it, I do the reports. Then I have to take a thumb drive and load in the town election. And somebody has to stand there and load all those ballots into the machine. And so it's going to be at least probably close to midnight, if not later, before we even get out of there, because now we also have to hand count the school ballots. So to get enough election workers to cover 2 full shifts, really, that's where I'm at.
Okay. I say we have to put something out on the town Facebook and website that says we need poll workers.
We've got a bunch, but most of the situation is they're elderly, one. A lot of them have health conditions which would prevent them from working, and I wouldn't want them to work. I don't want to expose them to that.
Right.
And that's the exact same situation that was explored in that Maine Public report, that, as Cheryl said, there's no lack of people who typically are willing to do that. It's just that under these unusual circumstances, most of our poll workers are older, and they're not willing to put themselves at risk in that instance. Who can blame them?
Right.
If that's what we need to do, then that's what we need to do. If you think that's the way it should go, both of you, that's the way we should go with it. I mean, we don't really have a choice.
And don't get me wrong, at least at this point, unless the governor takes some sort of action, the polls will be open that day. And so if people want to go and vote at the polls, they'll have the opportunity to do so. I just think, I think Melanie, along with just, sort of letting people know that we need some poll workers, we need to let them know about the opportunity to vote early, so that anyone who wants to do that can do that, and they won't be disenfranchised.
Yeah,
Mr. Alexander, did you have a hand up?
I had my hand up.
Go ahead, Barbara.
As a Belgrade voter for the last 30 years, I think that I would be very much inclined to do an absentee ballot this year, especially if we're voting on 3 different elections, and one of them is all those 50 or however many warrants. It's going to take a long time to go through that warrant ballot at the polls. So I, for one, would be very happy to take that and do it, at home, and, either take it back to the town office if that's allowed, or, put it in the mail or whatever. But that's just my reaction, that I think there would also be a lot of people who would want to do that just because of the time it would take to fill out the ballot.
Yeah, that's a good point, Barbara.
I think it's unlikely that we're going to, as has been said already, we're going to get many people who want to go to the polls. And I think we're going to end up going absentee or some form anyway, and we might as well be planning for it now. Rick's leaving. I guess he's mad. He's gone.
Doesn't mean.
So that my thought is we need to plan on an absentee, doing this absentee or by mail or whichever, a written ballot, a absentee ballot form. Did you have something to say, Ernie?
Well, I voted absentee already. I'm aware of how the ballot has to be, or the ballots have to be split. So the questions that were already on the secret ballot are separate from the warrant articles that would have been voted from the floor. So I'm aware of that. I'm fine with it. I'm really in favor of not having a separate election and having to spend that money at a time like this, apart from the July 14th election. I would be a real proponent of, let's get the poll workers, shake the trees, find whoever we need to. I mean, I'd be willing to volunteer if I had to, but and get it done and get it all done on the 14th if we can. I get Anthony's point that if the governor allows the 35-day window instead of the 60-day window, then yeah, we do have a little extra time. We don't have to make this decision before the what was it, the 14th yeah. So maybe we do have a little leeway, but I think in general we have a pretty good plan, and I'm in favor of the plan.
Yeah, to be clear, if we did this, there would be 3 ballots. One would be the information that was on the earlier absentee ballot. 2 would be the remainder of the warrant articles, and the 3rd would be the school budget.
Well, and the 4th would be the state primary.
There's a primary in
That's
there
right,
too.
state primary. 4, so it'd be 4. Anyway, and the other thing, Ernie, is as a selectman, I don't think you can be a ballot clerk.
No, you can't.
So, Mr.
I
Chair,
think I could.
No, you can't. You have to resign your position.
You have a hand up too, Mr. Jay Brad.
yeah, Jay Bradshaw's wanting to speak.
Well, I didn't see him. His picture's so small down there. Yes, Mr. Bradshaw, what do you got to say?
Mr. Barrett, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
I'm just a wallflower. I wondered if, I think there have been many good points made about the number of people that will vote absentee, especially this year. I wonder if we could adjust the poll hours so that we're not locked into the 8 to 8 in recognition of the staffing challenge, so that perhaps you could do a 9 to 5 or something, so that folks aren't expected to be there till midnight, but they could start to count the ballots a little bit earlier.
I think, Jay, that's probably something Cheryl would have to get some special dispensation from the Secretary of State's office.
Right, yeah. But given that we're more than 60 days out, this is the type of thing that I think it is doable. We've done it in the past, adjusted hours. We've actually gone the other way. Recall for a presidential election in 2016, we actually opened at 6 a.m. So I think the same type of consideration is available to reduce as well as expand. The other thing I would encourage you to do is to just consider the warrant articles themselves. And I don't know if you're going to talk about that separately. We've had a little bit of an offline discussion about it, but I think there's an opportunity there to adjust some of those based upon the timing.
Melanie?
Yeah. So adjusting the hours, if I were to choose not to vote absentee ballot and we change the hours from 9 to 5, I wouldn't be able to vote.
Right.
So I would vote absentee ballot.
Yeah.
So there's one.
Yeah. Melanie, I might propose something that goes beyond 5 o'clock for people who are working till 5. And so we might want to adjust it to 10 to 7 or,
Agreed. Yeah.
9 to 6.
So, and then the other option that I think we have to consider is is it possible for us to mail ballots to everyone who's on our voting list? And the only way you don't get mailed a ballot is if you haven't registered to vote yet. And then that gives everyone the opportunity to really take the time to go through it. And then get it back in a timely fashion. So maybe we get more people actually voting because the ballot goes to everyone's house.
I think, Melanie, if we decide to do it this way, it'll be up to the clerk as to who's going to get a ballot and who's not, just as it is during a regular election. They have to present themselves and make a decision based on what's in the books. And then everybody gets a ballot, of course, but if you're not in the books, you don't get a ballot.
Yeah, so Michael, I think in that case, we would probably have to check with the Secretary of State's office again as to what the law is, because the law may well say that you have to request a ballot in order to receive a ballot. And
Yeah.
I don't know how many, Cheryl, do you know how many registered voters that we have in Belgrade?
It's 2,300 and some odd.
So those are things that we'd be happy to look at, but I don't want to commit to anything in that regard simply because we need to check what the law is.
Can you do that? Would you check and see?
Oh, certainly.
I think Melanie's idea has a lot of merit. If that's something that we can do.
Just mail them out to everybody?
Yeah, just mail them out to everybody. Maybe people, there's a part of me that says maybe people that have never used an absentee ballot before can be encouraged to vote, where they might not have shown up. I don't know.
Cheryl?
Yeah, my only concern with doing something like that, and I don't have a problem with it, as Secretary of State tells me what to do and I'll do whatever they tell me.
Right.
But if I mail it to Sally Smith and she's in bed, she's totally incompetent as far as knowing if she wants to vote or not, and I mail it to Sally and somebody who's taking care of Sally says, oh, well, we'll fill this out for her.
Uh-huh.
That's my only problem with doing a mail all kind of deal.
Right.
But like I said, it's not up to me, it's up to the Secretary of State, and I'll gladly reach out to them.
Yeah, find out, and then we can.
Yep.
Yeah, but I hear what you're saying.
Do we have to decide tonight how the ballots are going to be distributed, or are we just deciding on whether or not to have an election this way?
I think the decision before you right now is whether or not you want to call the election on July 14th.
There you go.
And whether or not you want to put all of the warrant articles that we are going to put before voters on that ballot. And to Jay's point here, we haven't yet had a discussion. We'll have a discussion here in a moment, I think, as to what articles we are going to have on that ballot.
Right.
But that's really what we're deciding tonight. Actually, how the ballots are distributed is a different thing. You have to go to the Secretary of State and find out what the legality is. And then whatever the legality is, we'll follow that.
Rick has his hand up.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry, Rick.
Melanie?
I was just going to say that I would make the motion that we make the decision tonight that we're going to call the election on July 15th.
Excuse me, Mel. Yeah, there you go.
July
Sorry.
14th now.
Okay, your motion is,
July 14th.
Oh, I thought it was the 15th. Sorry. Because if May 15th is our deadline and it's 2 months before, I thought that made it July 15th.
May 14th is our deadline.
Right. Oh, okay.
amend your motion.
Yeah, I make the motion for July 14th.
I'll second it. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
The secret ballots that we've already done have got a date on them. Is that legal to go with that date?
Yeah, the governor's decree allows them to use those same ballots, even though the date is, okay, so it's legal.
Just want to make sure it's legal.
Yeah, and so Rick, and again, when we checked with MMA, they said it doesn't matter sort of what we've done in the past because of these circumstances. We can use those ballots just moving forward.
All I wanted to hear, I want to make sure we're doing it, not going to come back and thank you.
Okay. Let's vote on the motion is to, what is the motion? The motion is to hold the election on the 14th of July. Okay, Rick, how do you vote?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Ernie? Ernie?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Melanie?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Okay, 5-0. The election will be on the 14th. Now what's the next part we have to vote on?
So the next thing you have to consider is what you want to have on the ballot. And I think there are two questions before you in that regard. One is, do you want to reduce the number of articles on the ballot only to those that are essential to have this year? It might make it a little easier for the voter because they won't be quite so overwhelmed with the number of articles that we have. And since we're not having a usual town hall meeting format, we don't have the opportunity to discuss those and explain those and debate those with voters. So that's one. And then the second thing is whether or not we want to revisit any of those articles, particularly the budgetary articles, because of what's happened over the last few weeks. Now, in your memo, I laid out for you a lot of different options that you could consider. I will say this, a few people have over the last few days really pressed me that they think that we should just let the warrant articles stand as you guys previously approved them. And the reason for that is the way folks are explaining it to me, they think it could be confusing to people if they have their annual report and the annual report and the articles that they may have already read and studied say one thing, and then they get into the get their ballot before them and those articles say something else. And I think there is some merit in that. We put a lot of thoughtful consideration into the budget and into those warrant articles this year. And if we are going to readjust them, it sort of reminds me of the theme song from Smokey and the Bandit. We got a long ways to go and a short time to get there if we're going to be redoing any of those things. So that's one of the options that is before you. And I'm kind of just interested to hear your thoughts as to how we should proceed.
Comments?
I'd like to see us let the warrant articles stand as they were previously approved for all of those reasons that you mentioned. We spent months and weeks and going back and forth. The budget committee spent a tremendous amount of time, and I think it was very thoughtfully put together. And I mean, I realize that things are a little different now than when we first put it together, but I think it could be very confusing to people since we've already, put out the annual report with all the warrant articles on it.
Ricky?
I spoke to Anthony about this today. We talked about it today for a little bit. I think this should stay the way it is right now. The only thing we need to make sure that, of course, we're not going to spend all that money because of everything that's going on.
Right.
That money should be set aside at the end of the year and used to offset taxes next year.
We always have the option of not spending the money.
I understand that, but this year we definitely haven't spent it. We know.
Yeah.
What's happened. There's going to be some extra money. We just got to make sure it goes to the proper place.
You got it.
Yep.
Ernie?
Yeah, I'm in favor of leaving things the way they are, for the continuity's sake and lack of, we don't want to cause any severe confusion. And we did put a lot of time and effort into it, so I'm ready to agree.
Melanie?
So I would like to see it stand as it is as far as the ballot goes. However, an awful lot of our warrant articles state raise and appropriate X amount and any unspent funds go to this particular fund. So because we're not spending the same amount in this time frame, because we've designated any surplus to go to certain accounts, we have to put a mechanism in place that allows us to retrieve those funds from those accounts, put them in the undesignated fund, and use it to offset taxes. So I do think that we have to review this, and even if we have to have a warrant article that addresses those specific ones at the end that says, we're allowing any to go lapse to the capital reserve And then we have a warrant article that says, you know, we're going to cap how much goes into the capital reserve, because anything over that point has to go back to the voters, to the taxpayers, to offset next year's taxes, because it's only right.
Well, right now, if there's money unused, it goes into what, a reserve? Or does it go into undesignated?
It depends on the warrant article. So
Right. Yeah,
some
I'm
funds
sorry,
going
Melanie.
to yeah, some have it going to a reserve fund, some have it going to the undesignated fund. So we will have to go and do something to tidy that up at the end.
And to some extent, Michael, it depends upon which departmental budget it is. You know,
Right.
if there's any unspent monies in general government, for instance, administration, that goes into the undesignated fund. If there's unspent monies in the road budget, that goes to the road capital reserve. So it really just depends upon. And then there are some departments like solid waste where a portion of it goes into the capital reserve and a portion of it goes into the undesignated fund. So it really just varies depending upon the function.
Right. And I'm looking at, you know,
Whoops.
unspent funds for fire and rescue go into their reserve account. You know, so that, anyway. They
That
are,
is- Like the fire and rescue, that's probably not gonna change this year. They're still working every day and still, that hasn't changed.
anyway, so it does vary depending upon what the article is as to where the money goes.
Is there any reason why we couldn't add as Melanie's suggesting, at least I think as she's suggesting, another article at the end of the existing warrant that just clarifies what's going to happen to these monies? Anthony, can you see something any reason why we can't do that?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to think about the wording in order to make it precise enough that people understand what it is that we're trying to accomplish there.
If we put a new article in, do we have to have a public hearing?
Well, we're going to have to have a public hearing anyway, because all of this is going on the ballot and that automatically requires a public
Oh,
hearing.
all right, yes.
We
Right.
can have those remotely, similar fashion to what we're doing tonight. And there are ways of doing it as a webinar under Zoom. So
Right,
it can be done.
it is true.
All right, yes, who's that?
That's Jack. Let me unmute Jack.
I got to put my glasses on so I see.
Go ahead, Jack.
Isn't this, can you hear me?
Yes.
sir.
Isn't this a question that's normally handled by the select board and the budget committee in making their recommendations for next year's budget? Isn't the mechanism already there to do this review?
Yes.
Well, it is for next year, but we're talking about this year.
Barbara, do you have something? No.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Yeah, so if I may, I had a note from one of our distinguished guests here tonight who said that we can make an adjustment in 2021 to move lapsed funds from any designated fund to another fund, which is kind of what we've done to some extent in this year's budget. We are making greater use of undesignated funds than we have traditionally in the past. And some of our budgets are a combination of raise and appropriate, of capital reserves, and of undesignated funds. So that note speaks to, I think, exactly what Jack is mentioning.
Well, I think what Jack is saying is that if we're going to review all the warrant articles, let's review it with the budget committee too, because that is the mechanism that we have in place, even if we do a Zoom meeting and review it with them as well. But I wasn't worried about what lapsed into the undesignated fund. It's what lapses into other designated areas that will have a surplus that doesn't belong there.
So let me make sure I'm understanding you, Melanie. So So let's take the library budget, for instance. So the library budget is $82,000 and they only spend $75,000. And typically that $7,000 would go into the library's capital reserve fund. So you're wanting to reserve the right to pull that money back into the undesignated fund for tax relief in 2021. Am I right about that?
Depending on the amount, like, you know, what we should be doing is how much normally lapses into this account? 5,000? Okay, well, if there's 25,000 that's not spent from the library budget, and normally 5,000 lapses into the capital reserve, then we need to decide that that 20,000 that's there in unspent money doesn't really belong there and really should be transferred to the undesignated fund to be used to offset taxes for next year. Because they're not going to use their whole budget. So if their operating budget is 80,000 and they only use 45 or 65 or 60, if there's too big of a percentage that lapses into their capital reserve is going to be out of whack from where we've anticipated it. And so those extra monies should go to the undesignated fund. But right now we don't have a way in place to make that happen on those particular articles. Other ones do go to the undesignated fund, so those aren't going to be an issue.
See, and I could be all wrong about this because as I think I mentioned in an email to you guys last week, I went through a MMA webinar on budgeting in this uncertain time because a lot of towns are, of course, budgeting for their July 1 fiscal years. And the only certainty we have with our budgets this year is that there's going to be a lot of uncertainty with our budgets, things that we can't possibly know at this point.
Right.
And so I could be all wrong about this, but I am not anticipating that we're going to have large surpluses in any of our departmental budgets. Now, we may be spending less, but keep in mind, we're going to be collecting less revenue as well. Because our municipal revenue sharing, I expect, is going to be down dramatically.
Yeah.
I anticipate that we'll probably have an untold number of property tax delinquencies this year, and you know, we may even see some delinquencies when it comes to our excise taxes. So,
well, and our recreation revenues, I recognize
exactly.
that.
Yeah,
But what
exactly.
I'm saying, I anticipate a surplus or a loss, but if there's a surplus, it belongs back to the taxpayers to offset for next year. So we have to look at them. We have to anticipate that if there is, what do we put in place as the elected officials to make sure that the taxpayers know that we recognize if there's unspent money, that it belongs to them and that we're going to do the right thing with it.
Yeah, I think, you know, I mean, maybe the cleanest way to do that is, you know, once we've reached the end of the fiscal year, Melanie, is maybe we look at what those surpluses are and instead of, you know, trying to twist ourselves in order to get those things back into the undesignated fund, maybe we just take directly from the undesignated fund amounts that are equal to whatever those extraordinary surpluses would be.
Well, but the undesignated fund isn't an unlimited savings account either.
No, but I mean, I have to tell you, one of the things I was mightily impressed with about the way Belgrade operates is that you guys have historically done a fantastic job of saving up for your needs. So, you know, where I came from, if we needed a fire truck, we financed it. Here, you guys save up for 10 years and then buy a fire truck. And that's the more, frankly, responsible way of doing it. And so, you know, I think even your capital reserves are eventually going to get used because there are always going to be those big ticket needs, whether they are roads or fire trucks or the addition to the recreation center or whatever the case might be.
Anthony, is this something that we have to make a decision on tonight?
I don't think so, no.
I'm kind of thinking that we need a little time to think about this, brainstorm a little bit and See if we can come up with a good answer.
Okay, so
I just threw that out because I think there is gonna be some money. Well, it's gonna be 6 months, almost 6 months into the calendar year. And we have much, that's for sure.
We'll be 6 months into it, actually.
yeah.
We, I think we need to vote on tonight is whether or not to advance the remainder of the warrant. If how we're going to handle the money issues.
Yeah, so you're right.
As far as the question, excuse me, as far as the questions we're debating right now, I think that can be done at a later point.
So remember, May 14th is our deadline to get this ballot approved. And so if you guys are comfortable with the warrant as is, then maybe all we need to do is come up with one other article that is added into this that seeks to do what Melanie's proposing.
I think that's so. And between now and the next meeting, you can research that and come up with a, we can add that the next meeting.
Well, you're going to have to, if we add another article, you're going to have a special meeting, and we can do that. You're going to have a special meeting in order to do it prior to May 14th or on May 14th.
Okay. Why don't we vote on this? And we've all indicated unofficially here that we're in favor of this. So I assume the vote will be to go ahead with this. In the meantime, Anthony, if you could research an article, and we'll call a special meeting to go over that. We can do that through Zoom. It shouldn't take too long to do that.
Yeah.
All right. Is that agreeable to all the rest of the board?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We have a motion on, we don't have a motion. I'll make a motion to put forward the warrant, the warrant as written in the, why am I stumbling around here? Put forward the warrant as written in the July 14th election. Does that do it?
Yes,
Okay.
I'll second that.
Made and seconded. Rick, how do you vote?
Well, may I ask one question?
Yes.
So you guys, do you want to put the entirety of the warrant on the ballot? Because remember, I'd sent you a list of things that we could hold off on a year if we wanted to. Things like, you know, the forever article updates or
I think the sentiment was that we put a lot of time and effort into coming up with this thing. Let's go ahead with it. If people feel that it's not warranted or this is not the time to do it, they'll vote against it. I hope so.
Okay, I just wanted to check.
And the thing about it, they've got the town reports of what we said.
That's
Yep,
right.
we've already got it. So
Right.
Okay.
All right, Rick, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ernie?
Yes.
Yes. Ernie says yes. Kathy?
yes.
Yeah.
Kathy says yes. Melanie?
Yes,
Yes. My chair says yes. Okay, 5 in favor. I have to ask Melanie, you know, that car is parked, isn't it? You're not driving along down the road.
no, I'm using the library Wi-Fi because mine at home kept cutting out and I couldn't get in. So I was like, hurry up, go to the library.
Ah, good idea.
Good
It
idea.
works. Thank you, Megan. All right, the chair has to leave the bridge for a few minutes. Ernie, could you take the con, and I will be returning as quick as I can. We finished with that item? We are, aren't we? We're ready to go on to new business?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll be right back. Ernie, take over for a few minutes.
Sure. I don't have a printed copy right in front of me at the moment.
Would you like me to read it for you,
What is
Ernie?
next?
Yeah. So the next
Go
item
ahead.
on the agenda is consideration of Pine Grove Cemetery plumbing improvements. Shall I?
Yes. You go right
Okay.
ahead. Yeah. Mhm.
So last month you guys directed us not to engage in any non-essential spending, and so we have backed away from some things that we were going to do, and we'll continue to do that. But we do have 2 things out at the cemetery that I thought that you guys needed to weigh in on. One is, you will recall that our water out there contaminated from the salt wells. And so DOT has given us the opportunity to connect a water line from their facility, which has a good well, and run it across the street to provide fresh water over at the cemetery. Now, Bruce called me this morning and gave me the cost estimates on this. That's a project that would cost $2,000 to $3,000 for that water line from the DOT facility. The other project is the Plan 5 expansion, laying the water lines for that. That's a much more expensive project. It'd be about $5,000 to $6,000 because of the additional faucets. But that $5,000 or $6,000 could be spent from the $22,000 that is in the Plan 5 capital reserve. But all told, you're looking at a cost of $7,000 to $9,000. When it comes to the DOT water line, Chris recently filled up some water tanks over there, and we have 550 gallons of potable water there at the cemetery now for people to collect water to water graves. He thinks that's going to last several weeks, if not a couple of months, and then we could refill that tank if we needed to. So that is definitely something that we could shelve if that's your pleasure.
Can I ask, how are we filling that cube?
The fire department helped us out.
Okay, so Chris didn't fill it. I'm like, was he in a garden hose?
No,
So
Chris
the
has,
fire department.
yeah, Chris has connections. He made that happen.
Okay.
I'm okay with shelving it.
Yeah. Does anybody want to make a motion about this? Or I guess I'd make a motion that we go ahead with the whole project across the road and the Plan 5 water lines. They've been in the planning for some time. Seems the funds are there in the, to have planned to do it. It needs to be done. So I guess I would, my motion would be we'd go ahead with that.
So Ernie, one correction, that the DOT line, that's not part of Plan 5, and so we'd have to dip into either the cemetery's capital reserve or the operating budget for that.
Sure.
Comment.
Okay.
Bruce has got his hand up, Ernie.
Oh, let me unmute Bruce.
Well, are you back, Michael? I guess. Go ahead.
Okay.
I believe that there's a water system capital reserve also for Pine Grove Cemetery.
So what you're saying is the money is there.
There should be money there, correct?
Philip, do you have to add anything to add? Put Philip's microphone on, please. Put Phil's microphone on.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Where are you, Phil? Oh, there you are. Go ahead, sir.
Good enough. We do have two reserve accounts. One's for the water and one's for the cemetery itself.
Do you guys happen to know how much is in that water account? I'm not seeing that right now.
Close to 20,000 or maybe 15 on the water, and somewhere around 17 left on the cemetery.
When you say the cemetery, you're talking about Plan 5, Phil?
Yes.
Okay.
So I wasn't here for the discussion, so I don't know what we're talking. What is Plan 5 been put on hold? Going to be put on hold? Do we have to work?
We'd really like to get that done. And I think Rick is getting on it.
Well, if the money is in the capital reserves and it was already planned for this, we're not taking money from anything in the advance. This was saved, as Anthony said, for these types of projects.
Right.
So let's keep some people working. The money's already there and it's needed. So we're not raising any more for it. So I'm in.
Rick?
Any other discussion? Rick?
I'll throw my 2 cents worth in now. If you notice over in Plan 5, there's a place dug out up through. I called Bruce to see if we could at least get the pipe to go down through there, because we want to put that road in. And the smart thing to do, we think, is put the pipe right beside the road up through there, so you don't have to dig it again. That's why I contacted Bruce on that. You may not spend all that money this year. I don't know how far we're going to get with it. So.
Anybody else? Yes, but Jack.
Question on the water line across the road from the north side. It's a small question, but who owns the pump and who pays for the electricity to run the pump?
Well, DOT, I imagine.
They happy with that?
They said we could do it.
They were happy to let us tap into their well.
Okay, I'm just raising the question.
Okay. By the way, Ernie, thanks for covering for me.
Sure.
Anything else from anybody? Philip? Bruce?
Well, that's basically it. I mean, the reason the expense is so high is we got well tiles we have to put in and some disconnects, and that's why the price is where it is, unfortunately.
And what I haven't been able to find in my memo, but what is the total amount for the whole deal?
But the total amount's between 7,000 and 9,000. Depends how many tiles we're going to need and how many faucets we end up putting in.
Okay. So the motion should be, who wants to make a motion?
It already had been made.
Oh, it has? I didn't, I'm sorry. What is the motion then?
Well, I think
with
I made a motion. I started a motion that, we should go ahead with both projects, the road across the road, the line across the road, and the Plan 5 expansion. I guess the money for the line across the road comes out of one till, and the Plan 5 expansion comes out of another. I'm comfortable with that, and that was my motion.
Is there a second?
Sure.
I'll second it since it doesn't.
Go for
it. All right. We ready, or do you want any more discussion?
Good.
How do you vote?
Probably going to abstain because I'm
You're going to abstain?
I'm going to because I'm doing the work then. Yes.
Okay. All right. One abstention. Ernie?
Yes.
Yes. Kathy?
Yes, yes.
Yes. And Melanie?
Yes.
The chair votes yes. Okay, four yes, one abstention. Okay, go to it. Go to it, Bruce.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your good work. Warrant.
We have two warrants. We did the warrant early, and then we had a miscommunication with the vendor. So I'll read the first warrant. It's warrant 58 in the amount of $580,668.04.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Made and seconded. Any questions on the, any comments, questions on the warrant?
I didn't even get a chance to look at it. I just got my computer back today, so tonight.
It's my lucky day.
Yeah, it is. I'll get you the next time, buddy.
I didn't know. You didn't have anything, Ernie? How about you? Yeah.
No.
Melanie?
Yeah, on page 1, 271 is the check number, I think, or either that or it's the 210. Yeah, 20010, the Jones Land Use Enforcement. Can you just remind me what the Jones Land Use thing was?
So you may recall that was a accessory structure built on Sandy Cove Road.
Okay. I thought it might be Sandy Cove. I was just like,
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that was it.
Okay. Anyone else? I had no questions either. This is amazing, and nobody had any questions on it. Kathy, did I ask you already?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Okay, all those, ready to vote on it? Rick, how do you vote? You abstaining?
Nope. Yes.
You abstained on the last one. Yes. You said yes?
Yes.
Hey,
Yes.
Kathy
Yes.
and Melanie.
Yes.
Okay, and the chair votes yes. Okay, 5 in favor. Next warrant.
Next warrant is warrant 59 in the amount of $401.50.
And what is that one again? Warren Automotive?
Yeah, it was a repair to our 1-ton truck.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made, second? There, here a second?
Yeah, I seconded it.
Okay. Any other discussion on the item? Okay, Rick, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ernie?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Melanie?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 5 in favor. Thank you. Now we're ready for the town manager. Town manager's report.
Okay, so I have a few things that I'm going to want y'all's input on. First of all, we've had a request from a couple of our town committees who would like to start meeting via Zoom. Among those, the cemetery committee would like to discuss prepping the cemetery for the Memorial Day. We're not having a public ceremony out there, but just getting it and ready. The library board of trustees wants to discuss about the library opening, so it might be good to have their input for your next meeting. And likewise, the transfer station committee would like to discuss a possible plan for reinstituting recycling, and that's something I plan on bringing to you at the next meeting. So do you guys have any concerns about some of our town committees beginning to meet via Zoom?
No.
I do not.
Yeah.
What'd you say, Melanie? It was kind of cut off.
Sorry, I said I think it's a great idea.
Yeah. I don't have a problem with it as long as they understand that they're public meetings and people
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, and so we will post them. We will put them on the town website. We may promote them on the social media as well. And so, yeah. So
we will continue to get notes on those meetings like we used to. Okay.
make
Thank
sure
you.
of that.
And you'll explain the rules such as roll call voting and all, right, Anthony?
Yes, I will. So also speaking of Zoom, I've been gathering up the names of some folks who will read the names of veterans for our Memorial Day tribute. And one of our readers suggested doing this via Zoom, which might be a little easier for some people. You won't have to have access to Facebook or Facebook Live in order to look at it. Although you can also stream your Zoom meetings on Facebook Live and on YouTube. And so, and then we could post it on our website afterwards. So what do you guys think? Would you have any concerns about us reading those names on Zoom and streaming it to some other platforms and then posting the link from the Zoom video to our website? We could also maintain good social distancing at that point too, since we wouldn't have to gather people up in order to have them in one place to do things.
I think it's a great idea.
What would they be doing,
Me
Anthony?
too.
Reading from home the way we are tonight, or
Yes,
or
sir.
okay, so everybody at home anyway. This wouldn't be any distancing problems at all.
Correct.
Okay, I think it's good.
So
It bothered me that we
can I make
It bothered me that we let the Memorial Day ceremony go because that's something that's always very important to the people in town. And this is at least something we can do for them. Melanie, go ahead.
So my suggestion would be that we put a notification out and we let folks know that if they don't have an iPad or something that they can do Zoom on, that we can loan them one from the town.
Okay.
We have the iPad. And maybe not all the committee members have, a way to get into Zoom. They may need some educating.
Yeah.
So
We'll work with them. But look, even Phil Sprague is here tonight.
Oh,
Yeah, thank my wife.
He thought he was turning on the TV, and by God,
Okay, so unless good, well we'll do Zoom and,
So
we'll,
you will record that as well? If they're doing
Yes.
it, they're doing it on Zoom, you'll record it.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Zoom
So
records automatically, doesn't it?
well, if you press the right button, it does.
Yeah, okay.
You have to press the button.
Yeah.
Mash the button.
So this is less cheery. As you can imagine, the town lost a lot of its value in its portfolio, along with every other investor in the world. And so I just wanted to make you guys aware of that. We lost about $100,000 in fair market value in March, which reduced the value of the town's portfolio to about $1.15 million. Fortunately, Bar Harbor Trust has a stop loss measure that was activated by the drop in the market. So it could have been much worse, and they are already eyeing some stock that they think is going to be a good value for us to invest in when it reaches a certain point. So anyway, I just wanted to make you guys aware of that. I checked with Tom Dowd about this. He said our losses as a percentage were no worse than some other organizations, and but the key is just to ride it out, because if we got out of the market now, we would miss the upswing and,
Right.
and the regaining of the value. So I just want to make you guys aware of that.
That's what all the authorities are suggesting anyways. Write it out.
Just hang on.
Our DocuSign experiment, our free trial ends, I think, tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow. And so I think it's been good. It's a way that we've also been able to sign some timesheets remotely. And I checked on the annual pricing. The annual pricing is for a year is $120 for 5 documents per month and $300 for unlimited usage. The monthly plans are $15 for the 5 documents or $40 for the unlimited usage. I think we're probably going to need to use DocuSign for a while still. And so I would, with your permission, I'd like to go ahead and purchase the $40 a month subscription for the next few months.
As opposed to 150 for the whole year?
As opposed to 300 for the whole year, because we sign more than 5 documents per month.
We do.
We do.
Okay.
I think it's a good thing to have.
Yeah.
Because if one of us can't make it, we can do it right from our phones, from whatever. I
Well,
think
between Zoom and DocuSign, we never have to go to another meeting.
that's right. That's great.
So, well, let me ask you then, Rick, that being the case, do you think we should be just buying off on the $300 annual usage?
That's what I would do.
Yeah, I think so too.
That gives us unlimited, right?
Right.
That's right.
And it's unlimited for the whole town, so the committees and everybody can use that. Is that right?
Right.
That's true.
Is that the same with the Zoom contract?
Yes. Yeah. All of our committees will be using the town's account.
Good. I say make it so. You want to
Okay,
vote
good.
on that? You want to vote?
And then,
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay.
You want to vote? I'm asking if you want to vote.
I
Do
think
I
we
want-
should.
Okay.
If we move forward, with-
All right, one at a time. Melanie, what are you saying?
I make a motion that we do a 1-year commitment with DocuSign for $300 for unlimited.
I'll second it.
Made and seconded. Any other discussion? Okay, Rick, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ernie? How do you vote?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yeah.
Melanie?
Yes.
And chair votes yes. Go ahead.
So lastly, y'all will recall we talked about a storage container for road materials at the last meeting, and I think it was Bruce who actually made a really good suggestion that there was one available at the transfer station, and Kenny has made it so that it can be secured. But for the time being, Morris would rather keep those road materials on his property until Jason Stevens is elected the road commissioner. And at that time, I've offered to, we'll assist Jason in any way that he needs in order to move those items to the transfer station. But there's still the matter of storing culverts, which Morris also has on his property. He suggested storing those outside of the town garage. I believe they may have been kept there at some point in the past. He mentioned to me. That seems like a logical place to me, and I was just wondering if you have any other ideas about places where we could or should store our culverts.
This vehicle is connected by OnStar to limited services.
This car has been stolen.
What is that? My heated seat on. It was getting cold.
I'm not sure the cemetery committee is going to be happy with those culverts.
Let me unmute Bruce here.
Bruce?
I agree. I don't think that's a good place for culverts. That's kind of an eyesore for a cemetery, have culverts stored there. I think a better place to leave culverts would be at the transfer station that's locked, secured. You don't have to worry about it getting, somebody coming in and loading the culvert and pick up and driving off.
I'm thinking of the residents across the street. They raised quite a ruckus when we were talking about putting a tower in the cemetery too. So, but yeah,
Okay.
I think you're probably right about the. Where'd the picture go? Hello. I don't know what happened, but I went blank all of a sudden. Anyway.
Hello?
Yeah. Who's up? Ernie, you trying to say
There he
something?
is. I see you.
And Melanie?
What happened?
All right, let's start over. Who wants to talk?
Okay.
Okay, Ernie, get off.
No, I just, you
went blank.
froze up there for a minute. Yeah.
All right, well, I guess we've talked this one out. Yes?
Sounds good.
Where are, what, all right. Don't put them
So
down.
where are we going to
Don't-
put?
How about just up at the transfer station as suggested?
Yeah.
That's really the only other place we have unless you want to put in the front lawn of the town office.
I think the
Right, so I figure we
idea.
One at a
I
time.
understand. I
One at a
transfer
time.
station.
Okay, I'll work with Kenny and we'll find a place up there.
All right.
Thus ends the town manager's report.
Okay, that's the end of the town manager's report. Excellent. Is there anything else anybody needs to discuss?
Yes.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
I would think we might want to ask our representatives from RSU 18 to come to, be on our next meeting. I think there's some money saved there that maybe ought to be given back to the towns. And why I'm saying this is I listened to another town that was doing their select person's meeting, and they're going to ask their district for it. So I can't believe there isn't some money that's not being spent.
Because they're not having school.
That's right. And I think that would be just a fair thing to do. I mean, let's see what our representative said.
Good for you.
I talked to Anthony a little bit about it today. I told him, I said, let's go through the chain of command. We'll let our representatives talk to the superintendent.
Can you arrange it, Anthony? Okay, thumbs up. Anything else? Yep, Ernie?
So if I remember correctly, when Carl was at our last meeting, he addressed this a little bit just to reflect on what he said, was that he thought there was going to be some savings too. He was hoping to set that aside because he foresaw a decline in state revenue, to the district, which he thought, that money could be spent for that, to offset any potential increase that the towns would have to take up, and or any extra might help to pay off the school lunch debt. So, he's addressed that a little bit, obviously, maybe not completely to our satisfaction as a town. So, I mean, actually getting that money back to the town is something I think he's thinking is going to happen indirectly by keeping any potential increase next year to a minimum, if at all possible, by any savings they might have. That's what I recall from his conversation with us last time.
Yeah, I remember he addressed it.
Yeah.
Wouldn't
So
hurt to
I
have-
like Rick's idea. We could certainly, keep. I think it's good to keep the pressure on the district to, to keep their pencil sharp, because Lord knows, we're going to have to keep our pencil sharp. I think, we don't know the extent of what the shortfalls we may see. So anything is worth a lot. So
I think we should pursue it. I think that our revenue sharing is going to be down. I think that there's good reason to try to pick up money wherever we can find it, frankly.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good possibility.
Well, from now on, when Ricky wants to put his 2 cents in, somebody pick it up.
Well, this one could be worth more than 2 cents.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it'll hurt to ask our representatives to be here.
Absolutely not.
So go ahead with that, Anthony, and see if we get them on the agenda. Do them first thing if you want.
Okay, I'll do.
Thank you. I just think
If there's nothing else, we need to go into. Yes, sir.
I had just two little observations. I was cleaning out my office a little bit. I noticed I have a laptop that belongs to the town that was given to me way back when. I've never even turned it on. I use the one of those iPads as I'm doing now, and I think I should give that back. If somebody else needs it in town, by golly, they should use it. And one observation, if for those that maybe don't know, I happen to take a gander down right side Marina Way, and the docks are in. So just thought I'd let you know. So
good. Anything else? Otherwise, I think we'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Mr.
Yes.
Chair, just one last thing that occurred to me, because this was a late breaking thing today, but if you have not heard, if you didn't see my email, but the business group has decided to cancel the July 4th festivities. So no parade, no fireworks this year. And so, if that article passes for the $5,000 for the fireworks, there's no need for us to even cut the check this year, they've told us.
Right.
My dog Jimmy appreciates that.
That's what I'm talking about. There's going to be stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. We got to go into executive session. So I guess a motion to go into executive sessions in order, and I would like to have a short break before we actually do that. You got to get a hold of the party.
Make that motion, we go into executive session.
Good night, everybody.
Can I take
Jack.
care?
With a 5-minute break.
We have to motion.
Go ahead, Melanie.
So we have to motion to close the select board meeting
Yep. That's
and
what,
then agree to that, and then make a motion to go into executive session.
that's okay. That's what Ricky was in the process of doing. So you're moving that we close the executive session and then go into, close the regular session, go into executive session. That's what you said, right, Rick?
Yeah, I think that's what I said.
It's
Yes,
for
Melanie.
both.
What?
two separate votes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Motion to close the regular session.
I make that motion.
Second.
Wait a minute. Start over and slowly so we can all get it at the same time. Make a motion to close the regular session. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, that was his motion. I'll second it. Motion been made and seconded. All those in favor, Rick? Rick? You in favor, Rick?
Yes, I said yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Ernie?
Yes.
Melanie?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Okay, the session is closed. The regular session is closed. Now
Now, do you
make a
want to
mo-
take the 5-minute break?
Yeah, let's take a 5-minute break and come back, and then we'll open the executive session. Is that okay with everybody?
10-4.
10-4, and we can close out to everybody except for the select board.
Megan.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for coming.
Okay, 5 minutes. Now 10 after 8. After.
Amen.
All right, Bill. We'll see you later.
Bye, Bill.
Peace out.
Bill.
Can you still hear me?
So, yeah, we can hear you. So
I just want to know.
Melanie- I'm sorry, say again, Ernie.
I want you to notice my lighting. If it looks like there's a beam from heaven that's shining on me, that's meant to be that way.
I thought it was a disco ball.
Oh, okay.
You may want to put a hat on. It's going to burn your head.
No, the heat's coming up from the other way,
Oh.
Rick. Yeah.
I on here.
So Melanie, how about once I get that article, a draft of that article written, I'll contact you and get your input on that.
Yeah. Well, and if you want to just put it out to all of us,
Okay.
it doesn't have to be just me. It's just whatever doesn't already lapse to the undesignated fund. We just have to figure out how we're going to make sure that that's set aside so it can be used how it should be.
And we just found one. If the 4th of July isn't happening, there's $5,000 right there.
Ka-ching.
Yeah.
And you're going to have the sheriff department's not going to be there. Don't need to be. There's another $450 or whatever.
$520.
$520. See? So we're at $5,520 right now.
Well, that's $520 between Memorial Day and 4th of July.
Look at
I
that.
was just gonna say, right, Memorial Day too. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Mike Hodgins is here. I'm going to let him in. There he is. Hi, Mike.
Hey, Mike.
He doesn't want to talk to us again.
He's looking very serious.
Yeah.
You may have to go audio again.
There we go. Can you hear us, Mike?
Yes, I can. Is my,
All right,
is my,
very good. Looks
my
like
sound
you have a better
quality?
internet connection tonight.
Yeah.
How's the
Yeah,
sound quality?
last time it was raining, and when it rains, my internet gets funky.
That squirrel doesn't like to be wet, the one running in that wheel.
Maybe you need to put in a booster.
Well, we need to boost something. So I've got to say, so Anthony, I made this weekend. It looks like you haven't found the bar yet.
No, well, who's doing your hair? That's high and tight, Mike.
Yeah, it looks almost military. The funny thing is, up here in Pittsfield, I went on Saturday. Apparently on Friday, somebody called the police department. This guy has been here for 55 years, and somebody complained that his seats were not 6 feet apart.
Okay.
And
Well, I'm not going to get a haircut because the select board chair likes my hair this way.
No, select board chair thinks you're scruffy as hell. Looks like you should be town manager of Mount Vernon.
Oh.
I'm just waiting for them to make me an offer.
Believe me, you would not do as well over there. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing well. How's everybody tonight?
Just marvelous.
I think we need
Okay.
to go into executive.
Make a motion, we enter
All right, make
executive
the mo-
session